There is a question that has begun to surface in recent years, a quiet but persistent murmur in the world of marine biology and deep-sea exploration. It is a question that challenges our understanding of extinction, of deep time, and of the resilience of life itself. The question is this: why are scientists finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches of our ocean? And the answer, or rather the many partial answers that have begun to emerge, paint a picture of our planet far stranger and more ancient than we ever imagined. We live on a world of surfaces. We walk on the crust of the earth, we sail on the skin of the sea, and we fly through the thin membrane of the atmosphere. Our entire civilization, everything we have built and known, exists on this thin, sunlit veneer. Below us, however, there is a realm that operates on entirely different rules. It is a world of crushing pressure, of absolute darkness, of near-freezing temperatures, and of a stillness so profound that it feels like a different planet. This is the deep sea, and within its most extreme feature, the great oceanic trenches, scientists are making discoveries that seem to belong to a different era of Earth's history. The discoveries are coming faster now. Each year, each month, sometimes each week, there is a new announcement, a new species of ancient fish found in the darkness, a new living fossil pulled from the depths, a creature that should have gone extinct millions of years ago, still swimming, still breathing, still surviving in the most extreme environment on our planet. The deep sea trenches are the deepest places on our planet. They are long, narrow, V-shaped depressions in the ocean floor that plunge to depths of over 10,000 meters. The Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, the Philippine Trench, the Peru-Chile Trench, the Kermadec Trench, the Japan Trench. These are the Grand Canyons of the underwater world, but they make the Grand Canyon seem like a scratch on the surface. These trenches are formed by the movement of tectonic plates, where one plate is forced beneath another in a process called subduction. This process creates a permanent scar on the planet, a wound that never heals, a place where the surface of the Earth is literally being pulled back down into the mantle from which it came. The trenches are part of a global system of tectonic boundaries known as the Ring of Fire, a horseshoe-shaped zone of intense geological activity that surrounds the Pacific Ocean. The Ring of Fire is home to over 75% of the world's active volcanoes and 90% of the world's earthquakes. The trenches are the deepest expressions of this geological activity, the places where the Earth's crust is being recycled back into the interior of the planet. The process of subduction that creates the trenches is slow but powerful. The tectonic plates move at about the same speed that human fingernails grow, a few centimeters per year. But over millions of years, this slow, relentless movement has carved chasms deeper than Mount Everest is tall. The Mariana Trench, the deepest of them all, plunges to a depth of almost 11,000 meters at its deepest point, known as the Challenger Deep. To understand how deep this is, imagine if Mount Everest were placed at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Its summit would still be more than 2 kilometers beneath the surface of the ocean. The pressure at the bottom of the Challenger Deep is over 1,000 times the pressure at sea level. It is a pressure that would crush any air-filled space, that would collapse a human lung, that would flatten a submarine made of steel. The trenches are not static features. They are dynamic, changing environments that are constantly being shaped by the movement of the tectonic plates. As the Pacific Plate is forced beneath the Philippine Plate, it drags the edge of the overlying plate down with it, creating the deep V-shaped scar that we call the trench. The process is not smooth. The plates grind against each other, building up tension that is released in sudden, violent earthquakes. These earthquakes can generate tsunamis that travel across the entire Pacific Ocean, and they can trigger underwater landslides that reshape the seafloor. The trenches are not just deep holes in the ocean floor. They are the most geologically active places on Earth. The places where the planet is literally tearing itself apart and rebuilding itself at the same time. The trenches are cold, with temperatures hovering just above freezing. They are dark, with no sunlight penetrating beyond the first few hundred meters. And they are under immense pressure, a pressure that increases by 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of depth. And yet, in these extreme environments, these places of immense pressure and eternal night, scientists have begun to encounter creatures that should not exist. creatures that resemble fossils from the age of dinosaurs, creatures that were thought to have vanished from the Earth millions of years ago. The question of why these prehistoric beings persist in the deepest trenches is not a simple one. It involves the very nature of evolution, the physics of pressure, the chemistry of cold, and the strange, slow rhythms of life in the abyss. The most famous example of a prehistoric creature found alive in the deep sea is the coelacanth. This is the creature that changed everything. Before 1938, the coelacanth was known only from the fossil record. Scientists believed it had gone extinct at the end of the Cretaceous period, approximately 66 million years ago, at the same time as the dinosaurs. It was considered a transitional fossil, a link between fish and the first tetrapods, the four-limbed vertebrates that eventually walked on land. The coelacanth had distinctive lobed fins that moved in a pattern similar to the limbs of land animals. It was, in the minds of paleontologists, a creature of the past, a relic of a bygone era, a piece of evolutionary history that had been closed and filed away. Then, on December 22, 1938, off the coast of South Africa near the town of East London, a trawler captain named Hendrik Goosen brought up a strange catch from a depth of about 70 meters. Among the fish on his deck was a large, blue, iridescent specimen that none of the fishermen recognized. It was about 1.5 meters long, weighed about 57 kilograms, and had unusual lobed fins that looked almost like stubby legs. The captain, knowing that the local museum was interested in unusual specimens, preserved the fish and contacted a curator named Marjorie Courtenay-Latimer. When Marjorie Courtenay-Latimer arrived at the docks and saw the fish, she later described it as the most beautiful fish she had ever seen. It was covered in thick, armor-like scales that were a shimmering steel blue with silver highlights. Its fins were fleshy and limb-like, supported by a central bone structure. It had a strange, almost prehistoric appearance that immediately struck her as something extraordinary. She did not know what it was, but she knew it was important. She tried to preserve the specimen, but in the heat of the South African summer and without proper refrigeration facilities, the fish began to decay. She did what she could, saving the skin and the skeleton, and sent sketches and descriptions to a prominent ichthyologist named Professor J.L.B. Smith. When Professor Smith saw the sketches, he was stunned. He immediately recognized the creature. It was a coelacanth. It was a fish that should have been extinct for 66 million years. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It was as if someone had found a living dinosaur walking through a forest. The coelacanth became the most famous living fossil in the world, proof that creatures from deep time could survive into the present day, hidden away in the oceans that cover most of our planet. For decades after that initial discovery, scientists searched for more coelacanths. They found them in the waters around the Comoros Islands, between Madagascar and the African coast, living at depths of between 100 and 500 meters. Later, a second species was discovered in the waters off Indonesia, near the island of Sulawesi. These fish were living in deep, underwater caves and rocky slopes during the day, emerging at night to feed. They were not creatures of the abyssal trenches, but they were creatures of the deep, and their discovery opened a door in the scientific mind. If the coelacanth could survive, what else might be down there? The coelacanth is a living fossil, but it is not a creature of the Hadal zone, the deepest parts of the ocean. The Hadal zone, named after Hades, the Greek god of the underworld, begins at depths of about 6,000 meters and extends to the bottom of the deepest trenches. The deep sea is a challenging environment for exploration. The pressure, the cold, the darkness, and the vast distances involved make it one of the most difficult places on Earth to study. A single expedition to the deep trenches can cost millions of dollars and require months of planning. The technology required to survive at these depths is complex and expensive. The submersibles that descend into the trenches must be built to withstand pressures that would crush any ordinary vessel. Their electronics must be protected from the corrosive effects of seawater and the crushing force of the deep. Their lights must be powerful enough to pierce the absolute darkness of the Hadal zone. Their cameras must be sensitive enough to capture images of creatures that have never been seen before. The scientists who lead these expeditions are pioneers, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and technology. They are driven by the same curiosity that has driven explorers throughout history. They want to know what is down there. They want to understand the creatures that live in this alien world. And they are willing to risk their time, their resources, and sometimes their lives to find out. The challenges of deep-sea exploration are immense, but the rewards are even greater. Every expedition to the deep trenches brings back new knowledge. Every dive reveals new species. Every sample contains new insights into the history of life on Earth. The deep trenches are the last great unknown on our planet, and they are yielding their secrets slowly, reluctantly, and with great difficulty. But the work continues, the exploration continues, the discovery continues. And as our technology improves and our understanding deepens, we will continue to find more prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches of our ocean. The discovery of the coelacanth was not an isolated event. It was part of a larger story, a story of humanity's gradual awakening to the wonders of the deep sea. This story began long before 1938, with the first scientific expeditions to explore the depths of the ocean. The most famous of these was the Challenger expedition, which set sail from England in 1872 and spent 4 years traveling around the world, sampling the depths of the ocean and discovering thousands of new species. The Challenger expedition was the first systematic exploration of the deep sea, and it revolutionized our understanding of the ocean. Before the Challenger, scientists believed that the deep sea was a barren, lifeless wasteland, a place where no life could survive in the darkness and cold. The Challenger proved them wrong. They dredged up strange and wonderful creatures from depths of thousands of meters, including bizarre fish, delicate sea lilies, and glowing jellyfish. They discovered that the deep sea was teeming with life, and they laid the foundation for all future deep sea exploration. But the Challenger expedition could only go so deep. Their dredges could sample down to about 8,000 meters, but they could not see the bottom. They could not observe the creatures in their natural habitat. For that, scientists would need to develop new technologies that would allow them to descend into the depths and see the deep sea for themselves. The first such technology was the bathysphere, a small spherical submersible that was lowered from a ship on a cable. In 1934, the naturalist William Beebe and the engineer Otis Barton descended in a bathysphere to a depth of 923 meters off the coast of Bermuda. They saw creatures that no human had ever seen before. They saw strange fish with glowing lures, jellyfish that pulsed with bioluminescent light, and shrimp that emitted clouds of sparks when disturbed. Beebe described the experience as being like a visitor from another world, looking in on a realm of existence that was completely alien to our own. The bathysphere was followed by the bathyscaphe, a free-diving submersible that could descend to much greater depths. The Trieste, the most famous bathyscaphe, descended to the bottom of the Mariana Trench in 1960, carrying Jacques Picard and Don Walsh to the deepest point on Earth. Since then, a new generation of submersibles has been developed, including remotely operated vehicles and autonomous underwater vehicles that can explore the deepest parts of the ocean without risk to human life. The technology of deep-sea exploration has advanced more in the past 20 years than in the previous 100. Modern remotely operated vehicles like the ROV Jason, the ROV Kaiko, and the ROV Nereus can dive to depths of over 10,000 meters, sending back high-definition video and collecting samples with robotic arms. Autonomous underwater vehicles like the Sentry and the Hugin can map the seafloor in unprecedented detail, creating three-dimensional images of underwater mountains and trenches. Deep-sea landers, which are autonomous camera systems that sink to the bottom and record whatever passes by, have captured footage of creatures that would never approach a noisy, brightly lit submarine. These technologies have opened up the deep sea to exploration in ways that were unimaginable just a few decades ago. And they have revealed that the deep trenches are far more diverse and biologically rich than anyone ever expected. This is a world that was, until very recently, completely unknown to us. It is a world of pressures that would crush a human instantly, of temperatures just above freezing, and of a darkness so complete that it has never known light. And it is in this Hadal zone that scientists have begun to find the most extraordinary prehistoric survivors. The Hadal zone is a realm of extremes. The pressure at these depths is measured in tons per square centimeter. The temperature hovers just above the freezing point of fresh water. The darkness is absolute, with no photon of sunlight ever reaching these depths. The food supply is meager, consisting mostly of the faint, drifting particles of organic matter known as marine snow that slowly fall from the sunlit waters above. And yet, despite all of these challenges, the Hadal zone is teeming with life. Every expedition to the trenches brings back new species. Every camera lowered into the darkness reveals creatures that have never been seen before. The Hadal Zone is the least explored environment on Earth, and it is yielding discoveries that are rewriting the textbooks of marine biology and evolutionary science. Consider the frilled shark. This is a creature that looks like it swam straight out of a nightmare from the age of dinosaurs. Its body is long and eel-like, reaching up to 2 meters in length. But its most striking feature is its head. The frilled shark has a mouth that is not located at the front of its snout like most sharks, but rather at the terminal end of a blunt, almost reptilian head. Its jaws are lined with hundreds of needle-sharp, multi-cusped teeth arranged in rows, and when it opens its mouth, it does not bite down like a typical shark. Instead, it lunges forward and swallows its prey whole, like a snake. Its gill slits are unique as well. 6 pairs of them, covered by a frilled membrane that gives the creature its name, giving it an almost serpentine appearance. For decades, the frilled shark was known only from fossils. Its teeth and skeletal fragments had been found in rock formations dating back to the Cretaceous period, and scientists had assumed that this strange, primitive shark had gone extinct along with so many other creatures of that era. Then, in January 2007, a fisherman off the coast of Japan near the town of Shizuoka caught something extraordinary in his nets. He was fishing at a depth of about 600 meters when he brought up a creature that no one on the boat could identify. It was a female frilled shark, nearly 2 meters long, with a body that writhed and twisted like a serpent. The fisherman contacted the Awashima Marine Park, where scientists were able to examine the creature before it died shortly after being brought to the surface. The frilled shark is what scientists call a living fossil, but it is more than just a relic. It is a window into the evolutionary past of all sharks. Modern sharks, the great whites, the hammerheads, the tiger sharks, are highly evolved creatures with complex sensory systems and powerful jaws. The frilled shark represents an earlier branch of the shark family tree, a lineage that diverged before the evolution of the more modern shark forms. It is a creature that has remained essentially unchanged for over 80 million years. It has persisted through the asteroid impact that ended the age of dinosaurs, through the ice ages, through the rise of mammals, and the emergence of humans. And it has done so by retreating to the deep, to the cold, dark waters, where competition is less fierce and where the pace of evolution itself seems to slow down. The frilled shark is not the only prehistoric shark to be found in the deep. There is also the goblin shark, a creature so bizarre that it seems almost like a parody of a deep-sea monster. The goblin shark, scientifically known as Mitsukurina ostoni, has a long, flat, blade-like snout that protrudes from its head like a sword. Its jaws are highly protrusible, meaning they can shoot forward from the head to capture prey, giving the creature a nightmarish alien appearance when it feeds. Its skin is pinkish-gray, almost translucent, with blood vessels visible beneath the surface. It is a creature that looks like it belongs in a horror film, not in the real world. The goblin shark was first described from a specimen caught off the coast of Japan in 1898. For many years, it was considered an extremely rare curiosity, a deep-sea oddity that was occasionally brought up in trawling nets. But as deep-sea exploration has intensified, scientists have realized that the goblin shark may be far more common than previously thought. It has been found in the Atlantic Ocean, in the Indian Ocean, and in the Pacific Ocean, at depths ranging from 200 to over 1,300 meters. It is a cosmopolitan inhabitant of the deep, but it remains elusive, rarely seen alive, a ghost of the continental slopes and submarine canyons. The goblin shark belongs to a family called Mitsukurinidae, a lineage that dates back approximately 125 million years to the early Cretaceous period. It is the only living member of that family. Its ancestors swam in the oceans when dinosaurs walked the Earth, and it has survived virtually unchanged through eons of geological upheaval. Its secret, like so many deep-sea creatures, is its habitat. The deep sea is a stable environment. Temperature changes are minimal. Light does not penetrate. The seasons have no meaning. In such an environment, evolution slows down. There is less pressure to adapt, less need to change. The goblin shark has found a niche that works, and it has stayed in that niche for over 100 million years. The Greenland shark is another extraordinary example of a prehistoric creature that has survived in the deep, cold waters of the ocean. This is one of the largest sharks in the world, reaching lengths of over 6 meters and weights of over 1,000 kilograms. It is a massive, slow-moving creature that inhabits the cold, deep waters of the North Atlantic and the Arctic Ocean. It is also one of the longest-lived vertebrates on Earth. In 2016, scientists used radiocarbon dating of the lenses of Greenland shark eyes to determine the age of these animals. Their results were staggering. They estimated that the largest Greenland sharks could be between 272 and 512 years old. One specimen was estimated to be around 392 years old, meaning it was born in the early 17th century, around the time of Galileo and the 30 Years' War. These sharks were alive before the Industrial Revolution, before the discovery of electricity, before the United States existed. They have been swimming in the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic for centuries, growing at an almost imperceptible rate, moving through the depths with a patience that is almost impossible for us to comprehend. The Greenland shark is a living fossil not because its body has remained unchanged for millions of years, but because its life strategy is so ancient. It grows at an incredibly slow rate, estimated at less than 1 centimeter per year. It reaches sexual maturity at around 150 years of age. It moves through the deep water at a languid pace, rarely exceeding 1 kilometer per hour. It feeds on whatever it can find, from fish to seals to the carcasses of whales that sink to the deep. Its meat is toxic, containing high levels of trimethylamine oxide, a compound that acts as a natural antifreeze and also protects the shark's proteins from the damaging effects of pressure and cold. The Greenland shark is virtually blind in many cases, its eyes infested with a parasitic copepod that hangs from the cornea and feeds on the tissue of the eye. And yet, despite this disability, the Greenland shark survives and thrives in the deep, using its other senses to navigate and hunt in the darkness. The nautilus is a living fossil of even greater antiquity. The nautilus is a cephalopod, a relative of squid and octopuses, but it belongs to an ancient lineage that dates back over 500 million years, to the Cambrian period. For much of Earth's history, the seas were dominated by nautiloids, the ancestors of the modern nautilus. Some of these ancient nautiloids grew to enormous sizes with shells reaching up to 9 meters in length. They were the apex predators of the ancient seas, the sharks of their day. Over time, they were largely replaced by more advanced fish and by the more active, intelligent cephalopods like squid and octopus. The nautilus retreated to the deep, to the coral reefs and the steep slopes of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, where it survives today, virtually unchanged from its ancestors of hundreds of millions of years ago. The nautilus has a shell that is divided into chambers, which it fills with gas to control its buoyancy. It has a simple nervous system, a primitive eye that works like a pinhole camera, and a slow, methodical way of moving through the water. It is a creature of the deep, typically found at depths of between 100 and 500 meters during the day, migrating to shallower waters at night to feed. It is a survivor from a different age, a living link to the Cambrian seas, and it persists in the deep because the deep has not changed. But there is another living fossil in the deep sea that is perhaps even more ancient than the nautilus. This is the horseshoe crab. Although the horseshoe crab is often found in shallow waters along the coasts of North America and Asia, its ancestors date back over 450 million years, to the Ordovician period. The horseshoe crab is not actually a crab at all. It is more closely related to spiders and scorpions than to true crabs. It belongs to a group of arthropods called chelicerates, and it is the only surviving member of an ancient lineage that once dominated the seas. The horseshoe crab has a hard, horseshoe-shaped carapace, a long spike-like tail, and 10 legs that it uses to crawl along the seafloor. It has 10 eyes distributed across its body, including a pair of compound eyes and several simple eyes that detect light and movement. It feeds on small invertebrates and organic debris, using its legs to crush and grind its food. The horseshoe crab has survived through 5 mass extinctions. It has been on Earth for longer than the trees, longer than the dinosaurs, longer than almost any other animal lineage that still exists today. And it survives in part because of its ability to live in a range of depths, from shallow estuaries to the deeper waters of the continental shelf. Horseshoe crabs are primarily shallow water creatures, but they are known for their extraordinary tolerance to variations in salinity and temperature, allowing them to survive in a wide range of coastal environments. Their ability to endure changing conditions has been one of the keys to their survival through 5 mass extinctions. The horseshoe crab is a living fossil, a survivor from the dawn of animal life on Earth, and it continues to thrive in the depths. Another remarkable living fossil found in the deep sea is the megamouth shark. This creature was completely unknown to science until 1976, when a U.S. Navy research vessel hauled up a strange shark entangled in its anchor cable off the coast of Oahu, Hawaii. The shark was over 4 meters long and weighed over 700 kilograms. It had a blunt, rounded head, a massive mouth lined with hundreds of small teeth, and a body that was dark brown on top and pale underneath. Scientists had never seen anything like it. They named it Megahasma pelagios, the megamouth shark, and it was immediately recognized as a living fossil, a representative of a lineage that was thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago. The megamouth shark is a filter feeder, like the whale shark and the basking shark. It swims through the water with its enormous mouth open, straining plankton and small fish from the water. It is a creature of the deep, typically found at depths of between 100 and 1,000 meters during the day, migrating to shallower waters at night to follow its prey. Since its discovery in 1976, over 270 megamouth sharks have been documented. Though it remains one of the rarest and most elusive sharks in the ocean, it remains one of the rarest and most mysterious sharks in the ocean, a living fossil that was hiding in the deep, unknown to science until just a few decades ago. The six-gill shark, also known as the cow shark, is another prehistoric survivor of the deep. This shark has 6 pairs of gill slits, rather than the 5 pairs found in most modern sharks. It has a single dorsal fin, placed far back on its body, and a long, powerful tail. It can reach lengths of over 5 meters and weights of over 600 kilograms. The six-gill shark is found in deep waters around the world at depths of up to 2,500 meters. It is a slow-moving, sluggish predator that feeds on fish, squid, and carrion. Its ancestors date back over 200 million years to the Jurassic period. It has survived through the breakup of the continents, through the rise and fall of the dinosaurs, through the ice ages, and through the evolution of humans. And it continues to survive in the deep, where the cold, dark waters provide a refuge from the more competitive surface world. The six-gill shark is often caught accidentally by deep-sea fishing operations, and when it is brought to the surface, it often dies from the sudden change in pressure and temperature. But in its natural habitat, in the depths, it is a perfectly adapted predator, a living remnant of the Jurassic seas. The blunt-nosed six-gill shark, scientifically known as Hexanchus griseus, is the most prominent species of this ancient lineage. It is one of the largest predatory sharks in the deep sea, reaching lengths of over 7 meters and weights of over 1,000 kilograms. It is found in temperate and tropical waters around the world at depths of up to 2,000 meters. The blunt-nosed six-gill shark has a broad, flattened head, a single dorsal fin placed far back on its body, and a long, powerful tail that it uses to propel itself through the water. It is a slow-moving but powerful predator, feeding on fish, squid, rays, and even other sharks. It is also a scavenger, and it is often attracted to the carcasses of dead whales and other large animals that sink to the deep sea floor. A related but distinct species, the big-eye six-gill shark, Hexanchus nakamurae, is also found in deep waters, though it is smaller and more elusive. The six-gill sharks as a group represent one of the most ancient lineages of sharks still alive today. Their fossil record extends back over 200 million years to the early Jurassic period, and they have remained virtually unchanged since that time. They are living fossils, survivors from the age of dinosaurs, and they continue to thrive in the cold, dark waters of the deep sea. The Pacific sleeper shark is another deep-sea shark that belongs to an ancient lineage. This shark is found in the cold, deep waters of the North Pacific Ocean, at depths of up to 2,000 meters. It is a large, slow-moving shark, reaching lengths of over 4 meters and weights of over 300 kilograms. It has a stout body, a blunt snout, and small eyes that are often infested with a parasitic copepod, similar to the Greenland shark. The Pacific sleeper shark feeds on a variety of prey, including fish, squid, octopus, and the carcasses of dead marine mammals. It is a sluggish, patient predator, moving slowly through the darkness in search of food. Its ancestors date back over 100 million years to the Cretaceous period, and it has changed very little since that time. The Pacific sleeper shark is a living fossil, a relic of the ancient seas, and it continues to survive in the deep, cold waters of the North Pacific. There is another category of deep-sea creature that scientists are only beginning to understand. These are the creatures that inhabit the vast, dark expanses of the deep-sea floor, far from the hydrothermal vents and cold seeps that create localized oases of life. These creatures survive on a sparse and irregular food supply known as marine snow. Marine snow is the constant, gentle rain of organic particles that falls from the sunlit surface waters down into the depths. It consists of dead plankton, fecal matter, shed skins, and other organic debris. It is a slow, steady drizzle of nutrients that feeds the entire deep-sea ecosystem. Most of the organic matter that enters the deep sea comes from marine snow, and the creatures that live in the deep have evolved to make the most of this meager food supply. They grow slowly. They live long lives. They move slowly to conserve energy. They have large mouths and expandable stomachs to take advantage of the rare opportunities when a large piece of food falls from above. The deep sea is a world of feast and famine, where creatures must be ready to seize any opportunity that comes their way. The marine snow that falls from above is not distributed evenly across the sea floor. Some areas receive more than others, depending on the productivity of the surface waters above, the depth of the water column, and the currents that transport organic matter across the sea floor. The trenches, in particular, act as traps for organic matter. Because they are the deepest parts of the ocean, they accumulate organic debris that slides down the slopes of the trench walls. This process, known as focusing, means that the trenches receive a higher concentration of organic matter than the surrounding abyssal plains. This is one of the reasons why the trenches are able to support more life than scientists once thought possible. The trenches are not just deep holes in the ocean floor. They are funnels that concentrate the sparse nutrients of the deep sea into a smaller area, creating localized hotspots of biological activity. The question of why these creatures survive in the deep trenches is intimately connected to the nature of the trenches themselves. These are not just deep holes in the ocean floor. They are unique ecosystems, isolated from the rest of the ocean by their extreme depth and by the physical properties of the water column above them. The trenches are cold, dark, and under immense pressure. But life has found a way, and not just simple life. Complex, multicellular, vertebrate life has adapted to these extreme conditions in ways that continue to astonish scientists. The adaptations are biochemical, physiological, and anatomical. The proteins in deep-sea creatures are structured differently to resist denaturation under pressure. Their cell membranes are composed of different types of fatty acids to maintain fluidity in the cold. Their metabolisms are slower, allowing them to survive on the sparse food that drifts down from the surface. They grow more slowly, live longer, and reproduce less frequently than their shallow water relatives. In many ways, they are living in slow motion, and this slow pace of life may be one of the keys to their longevity as a species. When scientists talk about finding prehistoric creatures in the deep trenches, they are not just talking about individual species like the frilled shark or the goblin shark. They are talking about entire lineages of animals that have persisted in the deep for millions of years. The deep sea is a museum of evolutionary history, a place where ancient forms of life have been preserved by the very conditions that make the environment so hostile to us. The darkness, the cold, the pressure, these are not barriers to life. They are preservatives. They create a world where change happens slowly, where competition is reduced, and where ancient adaptations remain viable. This is the key insight that scientists have come to understand. The deep sea is not a desert. It is a sanctuary. It is a place where the rules of evolution are different, where the pace of change is slower, and where the ancient forms of life can persist long after they have disappeared from the surface world. The deep sea favors slow life. It favors long life. It favors creatures that can wait, that can conserve energy, that can survive on the meager scraps that fall from the sunlit world above. And this slow pace of life may be one of the reasons why prehistoric creatures persist in the deep. Evolution happens faster in environments that are changing, in environments that are competitive, in environments where the pressure to adapt is high. The deep sea is the opposite. It is one of the most stable environments on Earth. Temperatures have remained near freezing for millions of years. Salinity has remained constant. Light has never penetrated. In such an environment, there is little pressure to change. A body plan that worked 100 million years ago still works today. A metabolism that evolved in the age of dinosaurs is still perfectly adequate. The creatures of the deep are not primitive, in the sense of being poorly adapted. They are exquisitely adapted to their environment, and their environment has not changed for millions of years. So they have not changed either. They are perfect for their world, and their world has remained the same. But there is another factor at play, one that is perhaps even more important than the stability of the deep sea. The deep trenches are refuges. They are places where life can retreat when the surface world becomes too hostile. Throughout Earth's history, there have been mass extinctions, periods of catastrophic change that wiped out large portions of the planet's biodiversity. The end of the Cretaceous, 66 million years ago, is the most famous. But there have been 5 major mass extinctions and countless smaller ones. The largest of all was the Permian-Triassic extinction event, which occurred approximately 252 million years ago. This was the Great Dying, the most devastating extinction in Earth's history. It wiped out over 90% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrate species. The causes of the Permian-Triassic extinction are still debated, but they likely included massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia that released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, leading to global warming, acid rain, and ocean acidification. The oceans became anoxic, depleted of oxygen, and the surface waters became toxic to most forms of life. But in the deep sea, the effects were less severe. The immense volume of water above buffered the changes. The temperature of the deep ocean changed more slowly. The chemical effects of the acidification were diluted. Life in the deep sea was able to survive the Great Dying in a way that life on the surface could not. The Triassic-Jurassic extinction event, which occurred approximately 200 million years ago, was another period of catastrophic change that devastated life on the surface. This extinction was likely caused by massive volcanic eruptions associated with the breakup of the supercontinent Pangaea. The eruptions released enormous amounts of carbon dioxide, leading to global warming and ocean acidification. Once again, the deep sea served as a refuge, allowing ancient lineages to survive while their shallow water relatives perished. The End Cretaceous extinction, 66 million years ago, is the most famous of all. An asteroid approximately 10 kilometers in diameter struck the Earth near what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact threw up a cloud of dust that blocked the sun, causing a global winter. The acid rain that followed poisoned the surface waters of the ocean. The collapse of food chains caused widespread extinction. In the shallow seas, approximately 75% of all species disappeared. The dinosaurs vanished. The ammonites vanished. The marine reptiles vanished. But in the deep sea, the effects were less severe. The immense volume of water above buffered the changes. The temperature of the deep ocean changed more slowly. The chemical effects of the acid rain were diluted. The food supply was reduced, but not eliminated. Life in the deep sea was able to survive the mass extinction in a way that life on the surface could not. And when the surface world recovered, the deep sea became a source of new life, a reservoir of biodiversity that could repopulate the devastated ecosystems above. This pattern has repeated itself throughout Earth's history. Each mass extinction has hit the surface world harder than the deep. Each time, the deep sea has served as a refuge, a place where ancient lineages could survive while their shallow water relatives perished. The creatures that we find in the deep trenches today are the descendants of those survivors. They are the living legacy of Earth's most catastrophic events, and they carry within their bodies the genetic memory of hundreds of millions of years of evolution. The frilled shark, the goblin shark, the coelacanth, the nautilus, the horseshoe crab, the Greenland shark, these are not just oddities. They are the survivors of the great extinctions, the ones that made it through when so many others did not. During these events, the shallow seas and the surface waters of the ocean were often the most affected. The deep sea, by contrast, was buffered. The immense volume of water above it insulated it from the changes happening on the surface. Temperature changes were dampened. Chemical changes were diluted. The deep sea became a sanctuary, a place where life could wait out the storm. When scientists look at the distribution of prehistoric creatures in the modern ocean, they see this pattern clearly. Many of these ancient lineages are found in the deep sea, and many of them are found specifically in the trenches or on the continental slopes adjacent to them. The coelacanth lives in deep caves and rocky slopes. The frilled shark is found on the edges of the continental shelves. The goblin shark inhabits the upper continental slope. The Greenland shark lives in the cold, deep waters of the Arctic. And there are others, many others, that are being discovered as our technology improves and our exploration of the deep sea intensifies. One of the most remarkable deep-sea phenomena that scientists have discovered in recent decades is the existence of hydrothermal vents. These are cracks in the ocean floor where superheated water, rich in dissolved minerals, erupts from the Earth's crust. The water can reach temperatures of over 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. But at the depths where these vents are found, the immense pressure prevents the water from boiling. Instead, it becomes a superheated, mineral-laden fluid that shoots out of the vent chimneys and mixes with the near-freezing water of the deep ocean. When the superheated fluid meets the cold water, the dissolved minerals precipitate out, forming towering chimneys of black or white smoke. These are the famous black smokers and white smokers, and they create some of the most extreme environments on Earth. For decades, scientists assumed that nothing could live in these environments. The water was too hot, too acidic, too toxic. But when they sent submersibles down to explore the vents, they found something astonishing. The vents were teeming with life. There were giant tube worms over 2 meters long, with bright red plumes that waved in the current. There were huge clams, white crabs, and swarms of shrimp. There were fish and octopuses, and strange pale eels. And all of these creatures were living in an environment that was completely independent of the sun. They were not relying on photosynthesis for their energy. They were relying on chemosynthesis, a process in which bacteria convert the chemicals from the vent fluids into organic matter. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of life on Earth. It showed that life could exist in environments that were previously thought to be completely uninhabitable, and it raised the possibility that similar ecosystems could exist on other planets and moons, in the subsurface oceans of Europa or Enceladus, where hydrothermal vents might provide the energy and chemistry needed for life. The hydrothermal vents are not the only extreme deep-sea ecosystems. There are also cold seeps, where methane and other hydrocarbons seep out of the seafloor, creating oases of life in the darkness. Cold seeps were first discovered in the 1980s, and they are now known to exist on continental margins around the world, at depths ranging from a few hundred meters to over 6,000 meters. At cold seeps, methane and hydrogen sulfide rise from the sediment, providing a source of energy for chemosynthetic bacteria. These bacteria form the base of a food web that includes giant tube worms, clams, mussels, and a variety of other creatures. The tube worms at cold seeps are related to the tube worms at hydrothermal vents, but they are adapted to the lower temperatures and different chemical conditions of the seeps. Some of the tube worms at cold seeps are enormous, reaching lengths of over 3 meters. They have no mouth or digestive system. They rely entirely on the symbiotic bacteria that live inside their bodies to provide them with food. There are brine pools, where super salty water forms lakes on the ocean floor. Brine pools are created when salt deposits beneath the seafloor dissolve, creating a dense, salty solution that pools in depressions on the bottom. The water in a brine pool can be up to 5 times saltier than normal seawater, and it is so dense that it does not mix with the water above it. The surface of a brine pool is like a perfect mirror reflecting the light of submersibles as they approach. The shores of these underwater lakes are often lined with mussels, their shells covered in white bacteria. The brine itself is devoid of oxygen, and only specially adapted bacteria can survive in its hypersaline waters. But on the edges of the pool, where the brine mixes with the normal seawater, there is a rich ecosystem of life. There are tube worms, clams, and fish that have adapted to the unusual conditions. There are whale falls, where the carcass of a dead whale sinks to the deep sea floor and creates a temporary ecosystem that can last for decades. When a whale dies and sinks to the deep, its body becomes an oasis of food in the sparse desert of the abyssal plain. The first stage of a whale fall ecosystem is the mobile scavenger stage, when creatures like hagfish, sleeper sharks, and rat-tail fish descend on the carcass and consume the soft tissue. This stage can last for months or even years, depending on the size of the whale. The second stage is the enrichment opportunist stage, when worms, crustaceans, and other creatures colonize the bones and the surrounding sediment, feeding on the organic matter that has been enriched by the whale's remains. The third stage is the sulfophilic stage, when bacteria break down the lipids in the whale's bones, producing hydrogen sulfide that supports a community of chemosynthetic organisms. This stage can last for decades, and it creates a unique ecosystem that is found nowhere else on Earth. There are woodfalls, where sunken logs and trees provide a source of food for deep-sea creatures. Woodfalls are created when trees from forests are carried by rivers out to sea, where they eventually become waterlogged and sink to the deep-sea floor. The wood provides a source of food for a variety of deep-sea creatures, including wood-boring clams, shipworms, and a variety of other invertebrates. The wood also supports a community of bacteria that break down the cellulose, creating a miniature ecosystem that can last for years or even decades. Woodfalls are particularly common in the deep-sea trenches near forested coastlines, where the steep slopes of the trench walls can funnel sinking wood into the deepest parts of the ocean. All of these ecosystems are connected, in one way or another, to the unique conditions of the deep sea. They are all oases of life in the vast, dark desert of the deep, and all of them are home to creatures that have adapted to these conditions in remarkable ways. The creatures that live in these ecosystems are often living fossils, survivors from ancient lineages that have found a niche in the extreme environment of the deep sea. The giant tube worms, the strange clams, the blind shrimp, the pale fish, all of them are products of millions of years of evolution in the darkness and pressure of the deep. One of the most extraordinary adaptations of deep-sea creatures is bioluminescence. This is the ability to produce light through chemical reactions within the body. Bioluminescence is used by deep-sea creatures for a variety of purposes. Some use it to attract prey, dangling a glowing lure in front of their mouths like the anglerfish. Some use it to communicate with potential mates, flashing patterns of light in the darkness. Some use it to confuse predators, releasing a cloud of glowing particles that distracts the attacker. And some use it to illuminate their surroundings, like a living flashlight. Bioluminescence is one of the most common forms of communication in the deep sea, and it has evolved independently in dozens of different lineages. It is a testament to the power of evolution to find creative solutions to the challenges of survival in the deep. The adaptation to extreme pressure is one of the most remarkable aspects of deep-sea biology. At the surface, we live under 1 atmosphere of pressure. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is over 1,000 atmospheres. This difference is not just a matter of scale, it is a matter of physics. At these pressures, the very structure of molecules is affected. Proteins can be denatured, their 3-dimensional structures crushed and distorted. Cell membranes can become rigid and brittle. Enzymes can stop working. And yet, deep-sea creatures have evolved to cope with these pressures. Their proteins are stabilized by small molecules called piezolites, which help to maintain the proper structure of proteins under pressure. Their cell membranes are composed of unsaturated fatty acids, which remain fluid and flexible even at high pressures. Their enzymes are adapted to function under pressure, with active sites that are protected from the crushing forces of the deep. These adaptations are not easy to evolve. They require complex changes in the biochemistry of the organism. And once a lineage has evolved these adaptations, it is effectively locked into the deep-sea environment. It cannot easily return to shallower waters because its biochemistry is optimized for the deep. This lock-in effect means that deep-sea lineages tend to remain in the deep for very long periods of time, and they tend to evolve more slowly than their shallow water relatives. The deep-sea trenches also play a crucial role in the global carbon cycle. They are the final resting place for organic carbon that falls from the surface waters, and they act as long-term carbon sinks, sequestering carbon that would otherwise be released back into the atmosphere. The cold temperatures and high pressures of the trench environment slow down the decomposition of organic matter, allowing more carbon to be buried in the sediment. This process has important implications for understanding Earth's climate history. During periods of global warming, the deep sea may have played a role in regulating the climate by absorbing excess carbon from the atmosphere and storing it in the sediment of the deep trenches. The deep sea trenches are also sites of intense geological activity. The subduction of tectonic plates generates earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions that can have profound effects on the deep sea environment. The movement of the plates also creates new habitats for deep sea life, as the crust is fractured and deformed, creating cracks and fissures that allow hydrothermal fluids to circulate. The deep trenches are dynamic environments, shaped by the constant interplay of geological and biological forces. The bacteria and archaea that live in the deep trenches are among the most remarkable organisms on Earth. These microscopic organisms are the foundation of the deep sea food web, converting chemical energy into organic matter through chemosynthesis. They are also among the most pressure-tolerant organisms on Earth, with some species capable of growing at pressures of over 1,000 atmospheres. These barophilic, or pressure-loving bacteria, have been found in sediment samples from the deepest parts of the Mariana Trench, where they live in the cold, dark, high-pressure environment of the Hadal Zone. The study of these bacteria has revealed new insights into the limits of life and the adaptations that allow organisms to survive in extreme environments. Some of these bacteria are capable of breaking down complex organic compounds that are resistant to decomposition, playing a crucial role in the cycling of carbon and nutrients in the deep sea. Others are capable of producing novel enzymes that have potential applications in biotechnology, from waste treatment to pharmaceutical production. The viruses of the deep sea are even more mysterious than the bacteria. Viruses are the most abundant biological entities in the ocean, and they play a crucial role in regulating bacterial populations and cycling nutrients. In the deep trenches, viruses infect the bacteria and archaea that live in the sediment and the water column, controlling their populations and releasing organic matter that can be used by other organisms. The study of deep-sea viruses is still in its infancy, but it is already clear that they are an important component of the deep-sea ecosystem. Some scientists have suggested that the deep trenches may harbor novel viruses that have never been characterized, and that the study of these viruses could lead to new insights into the evolution of viral pathogens and the development of new antiviral therapies. The sediment that accumulates in the deep trenches is a record of Earth's history. Each layer of sediment contains information about the climate, the ocean currents, and the life that existed at the time it was deposited. By drilling into the sediment of the deep trenches, scientists can retrieve cores that contain millions of years of Earth's history. These cores contain the shells of microscopic organisms, the pollen from ancient plants, the dust from distant volcanoes, and the chemical signatures of past climates. They are a library of Earth's past, written in the language of sediment. The study of these sediment cores has revealed the history of climate change, the timing of mass extinctions, and the evolution of life in the deep sea. It has shown that the deep trenches have been stable environments for millions of years, providing a refuge for ancient life forms through the great catastrophes that have shaped the surface world. The sediment cores are a reminder that the deep trenches are not just physical features of the ocean floor. They are archives of deep time, preserving the history of our planet in their layers. The role of the deep trenches in the global ecosystem is still not fully understood, but it is clear that they are not isolated from the rest of the ocean. The trenches are connected to the surface waters through the sinking of organic matter, to the continental margins through the transport of sediment, and to the deep ocean through the circulation of water masses. Changes in the surface ocean, such as warming, acidification, and deoxygenation, are likely to affect the deep trenches in ways that we are only beginning to understand. The prehistoric creatures that live in the trenches have survived for millions of years, but they may not be able to survive the rapid changes that are currently underway in the global ocean. One of the key molecules that allows deep-sea creatures to survive under extreme pressure is trimethylamine N-oxide, commonly known as TMAO. This is a small organic compound that is found in high concentrations in the tissues of deep-sea fish and invertebrates. TMAO acts as a protein stabilizer, protecting the three-dimensional structure of proteins from the denaturing effects of pressure. It also acts as an osmolyte, helping to balance the osmotic pressure between the cells and the environment. The concentration of TMAO in the tissues of deep-sea creatures increases with depth. Fish that live at shallow depths have low levels of TMAO, while fish that live at the bottom of the Mariana Trench have extremely high levels. Scientists have found that the concentration of TMAO in the tissues of deep-sea fish follows a predictable pattern, increasing by about 1 millimole per kilogram of body weight for every 100 meters of depth. This relationship is so consistent that scientists can use the concentration of TMAO in a fish's tissues to estimate the depth at which it lives. The discovery of TMAO and its role in pressure adaptation has revolutionized our understanding of how life survives in the deep sea. It has also provided a tool for studying the distribution of deep-sea life and for predicting how deep-sea creatures might respond to changes in their environment. The deep currents that flow through the trenches also play a crucial role in distributing life across the Hadal Zone. These currents, driven by differences in temperature and salinity, transport oxygen and nutrients to the deepest parts of the ocean. They also carry the larvae and eggs of deep-sea creatures, allowing them to colonize new habitats and maintain genetic connections between populations. The study of these currents has revealed that the deep trenches are not isolated from each other. They are connected by a global system of deep-sea currents that circulate water around the entire planet. A creature that lives in the Mariana Trench may be connected, through the movement of water and the transport of larvae, to creatures in the Tonga Trench or the Kermadec Trench. The deep sea is not a collection of isolated habitats. It is a connected system, a global network of deep-sea ecosystems that are linked by the movement of water and life. The chemical environment of the deep trenches is also unique. The waters of the Hadal Zone have different chemical properties than the waters above them. They are colder, denser, and richer in dissolved nutrients. They are also higher in carbon dioxide and lower in oxygen than the surface waters. These chemical differences create a unique environment that favors certain types of life over others. The creatures that live in the trenches have evolved to thrive in this chemical environment, and they would struggle to survive in the very different conditions of the surface ocean. This is another reason why the deep trenches act as refuges for ancient life forms. The unique chemical conditions of the Hadal Zone create a barrier that prevents shallow water species from invading, while at the same time providing a stable environment for the species that have adapted to it. Another important adaptation of deep-sea creatures is the modification of their cell membranes. Cell membranes are composed of a double layer of phospholipid molecules, which are arranged with their water-loving heads facing outward and their water-fearing tails facing inward. The fluidity of the membrane depends on the types of fatty acids that make up the tails. In shallow water creatures, the membranes are composed primarily of saturated fatty acids, which pack together tightly and create a relatively rigid membrane. In deep-sea creatures, the membranes are composed primarily of unsaturated fatty acids, which have kinks in their structure that prevent them from packing together tightly. This creates a more fluid membrane that remains flexible and functional under high pressure. The process of adjusting the composition of cell membranes in response to pressure is called homeoviscous adaptation, and it is one of the key adaptations that allows deep-sea creatures to survive in the extreme environment of the trenches. The adaptation of enzymes to high pressure is another critical aspect of deep-sea biology. Enzymes are proteins that catalyze chemical reactions in the body, and their activity depends on their three-dimensional structure. Under high pressure, the structure of enzymes can be distorted, causing them to lose their activity. Deep-sea creatures have evolved enzymes that are more resistant to pressure than their shallow water counterparts. These pressure-resistant enzymes have more rigid structures, with additional bonds and interactions that hold them together under pressure. They also have larger active sites, which are more tolerant of the structural changes caused by pressure. The study of pressure-resistant enzymes has practical applications for biotechnology, as these enzymes can be used in industrial processes that require high pressure. They are also of interest to astrobiologists, who study the limits of life in extreme environments on Earth as analogs for the conditions that might exist on other planets. The deep sea environment also affects the nervous system and sensory organs of the creatures that live there. Many deep sea creatures have reduced eyes or no eyes at all, because there is no light to see by in the permanent darkness of the deep. Other deep sea creatures have evolved large, sensitive eyes that can detect the faintest traces of bioluminescence. The giant squid and the colossal squid have the largest eyes of any known animal, measuring up to 27 centimeters in diameter. These enormous eyes allow them to detect the bioluminescent flashes of their prey and predators in the darkness of the deep. Some deep-sea fish have evolved tubular eyes that point upward, allowing them to detect the silhouettes of prey against the dim light that filters down from the surface. The barrel-eye fish has a transparent head that encloses its eyes, protecting them while allowing them to rotate and focus on objects above. The deep-sea dragonfish is another remarkable example of sensory adaptation. This fish has a long, slender body and a chin barbel that glows with bioluminescent light. It uses this barbel as a lure to attract prey in the darkness. But the dragonfish also has another adaptation that is almost unique in the animal kingdom. It can produce and detect red light. Most deep-sea creatures are sensitive only to blue-green light, because that is the wavelength that travels farthest through water. But the dragonfish can produce a red glow from its eyes, and it can detect red light reflected back from its prey. This gives it a secret weapon in the darkness. It can illuminate its prey without being detected, because most deep-sea creatures cannot see red light. The dragonfish is a predator that operates in a hidden channel of light, invisible to its prey until it is too late. The stoplight loosejaw is another deep-sea fish with extraordinary adaptations. This fish has a lower jaw that is jointed and can swing open to an enormous width, allowing it to swallow prey much larger than itself. It has a stomach that can expand to accommodate large meals. It also has a specialized organ under its eye that produces red light, similar to the dragonfish. The stoplight loosejaw is a living fossil in its own right, a representative of a lineage of deep-sea fish that has been hunting in the darkness for millions of years. Its adaptations are so specialized that it cannot survive anywhere but in the deep sea. It is locked into its environment by the very traits that make it successful there. The deep-sea sea cucumbers, known as holothurians, are another group of creatures that have adapted to life in the deepest trenches. These are soft-bodied, sausage-shaped animals that crawl along the seafloor, feeding on organic debris. In the Hadal zone, sea cucumbers can be remarkably abundant, covering the seafloor in vast numbers. Some species have developed elongated bodies and fin-like structures that allow them to swim above the bottom. Others have developed specialized feeding structures that can sift through the sediment for organic matter. The sea cucumbers of the deep trenches are not living fossils in the traditional sense, but they represent a body plan that has been successful in the deep sea for hundreds of millions of years. They are the grazers of the abyss, the creatures that recycle the organic matter that falls from the surface and make it available to the rest of the deep-sea food web. The nervous systems of deep-sea creatures are also adapted to the cold and pressure. Nerve impulses travel more slowly at low temperatures, and the high pressure can affect the function of ion channels in nerve cells. Deep-sea creatures have evolved adaptations that allow their nervous systems to function at the low temperatures and high pressures of the deep. Their nerve cells have different types of ion channels that are more resistant to the effects of pressure. They also have higher concentrations of unsaturated fatty acids in their nerve cell membranes, which helps to maintain the fluidity and function of the membranes at low temperatures. These adaptations are essential for the survival of deep-sea creatures, as they allow them to sense their environment, find food, avoid predators, and communicate with each other in the darkness and pressure of the deep. One of the most extraordinary deep-sea creatures that exemplifies the uniqueness of this environment is the Japanese spider crab. This is the largest arthropod on Earth, with a leg span that can reach over 3.5 meters from claw to claw. It is found in the deep waters around Japan, at depths of between 200 and 600 meters. The Japanese spider crab is a living fossil, a survivor from an ancient lineage of crustaceans that dates back over 100 million years. It is a slow-moving, patient creature that scavenges the seafloor for food. Its long, spindly legs allow it to cover large areas of the seafloor in search of carrion and small invertebrates. The Japanese spider crab is a creature of the deep, and it represents a body plan that has been successful for millions of years. Another deep-sea giant is the giant deep-sea isopod, a relative of the common pillbug that grows to enormous sizes in the cold, dark waters of the deep. The giant isopod, known scientifically as Bathynomus giganteus, can reach lengths of over 50 centimeters and weights of over 1.5 kilograms. It is a scavenger that feeds on the carcasses of dead fish and whales that sink to the deep sea floor. It has a hard, segmented exoskeleton, 14 legs, and a pair of large black compound eyes. It is found in the deep waters of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, at depths of up to 2,000 meters. The giant isopod is a living fossil, a survivor from an ancient lineage that has remained essentially unchanged for over 160 million years. The deep-sea spiny lobster, also known as the deep-sea slipper lobster, is another creature of the deep that belongs to an ancient lineage. It is found in the deep waters of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, at depths of up to 1,500 meters. It has a flattened body, a broad carapace, and long, spiny antennae. It is a slow-moving scavenger that feeds on the organic debris that falls from the surface waters. The deep-sea spiny lobster is a living fossil, a survivor from the Jurassic period, and it continues to thrive in the darkness of the deep. The deep-sea environment also affects the life history of the creatures that live there. In the deep, food is scarce. The amount of organic matter that falls from the surface to the deep-sea floor is less than 1% of the total productivity of the surface waters. This means that deep-sea creatures must be efficient in their use of energy. They grow slowly. They live long lives. They reproduce infrequently. And when they do reproduce, they produce small numbers of offspring that are well provisioned with yolk. They are K-selected species in the terminology of ecology, meaning that they invest heavily in each individual offspring rather than producing large numbers of offspring with minimal investment. This life history strategy is typical of stable environments where competition is high and resources are limited. and it is one of the reasons why deep-sea creatures are so vulnerable to human impacts like overfishing and pollution. They cannot easily recover from population declines because they reproduce so slowly. Deep-sea gigantism is another phenomenon that scientists are still trying to understand. In the deep sea, many species grow to much larger sizes than their shallow water relatives. The giant isopod, a relative of the common pillbug, can reach lengths of over 50 centimeters and weights of over 1.5 kilograms. The giant amphipod, known as Alacella gigantea, can reach lengths of over 30 centimeters. The giant tube worms at hydrothermal vents can reach lengths of over 2 meters. The colossal squid can reach lengths of over 14 meters and weights of over 500 kilograms. No one knows exactly why deep-sea gigantism occurs. There are several theories. One theory suggests that it is a response to the cold. In cold environments, animals tend to grow larger because their metabolisms are slower and they can accumulate more body mass over longer lifespans. Another theory suggests that it is a response to the pressure. The immense pressure of the deep sea may favor larger body sizes because larger animals have a more favorable surface area to volume ratio, which helps them cope with the physical stresses of the environment. A third theory suggests that it is a response to the limited food supply. In an environment where food is scarce, larger animals can store more energy and survive longer between meals. A fourth theory suggests that it is a response to the reduced predation pressure in the deep sea. Without large predators to keep their numbers in check, deep-sea creatures can grow to larger sizes. Whatever the cause, deep-sea gigantism has produced some of the most extraordinary creatures in the ocean, and it is one of the most intriguing mysteries of the deep. The colossal squid is perhaps the most famous example of deep-sea gigantism. For centuries, the giant squid and the colossal squid were creatures of legend. Sailors told stories of monstrous tentacled beasts that could drag entire ships down to the depths. These stories were dismissed as myth and exaggeration, the products of seafaring minds addled by superstition and isolation. But the stories did not go away. They persisted generation after generation, and they were supported by occasional pieces of evidence. Tentacles washed up on beaches, beaks found in the stomachs of sperm whales, scars on the bodies of whales that could only have been made by massive hooks and suckers. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, scientists began to take the giant squid seriously. Specimens were found stranded on beaches or caught in fishing nets. The first complete specimen of a giant squid was obtained in 1873 off the coast of Newfoundland. Since then, many more specimens have been found, and we have learned a great deal about these elusive creatures. But the giant squid and its even larger relative, the colossal squid, remain among the most mysterious animals on Earth. The colossal squid, known scientifically as Mesonychoteuthis hamiltoni, is found in the deep waters around Antarctica. It is the largest invertebrate ever discovered, with a mantle length of up to 4 meters and a total length of up to 14 meters. Its eyes are the largest of any known animal, measuring up to 27 centimeters in diameter, the size of a dinner plate. These enormous eyes are an adaptation to the dim light of the deep sea. They allow the squid to detect the faintest traces of bioluminescence, the movements of prey and predators in the perpetual darkness. The colossal squid is a predator of the deep. It feeds on fish, on other squid, and possibly on small whales. It is itself preyed upon by sperm whales, which dive to depths of over 2,000 meters in search of squid. The scars on the bodies of sperm whales tell the story of these battles. The hooks on the arms and tentacles of the colossal squid leave deep circular wounds in the skin of the whales. These are not the marks of a passive prey animal. They are the marks of a creature that fights back, a creature that can defend itself against the largest predator on Earth. The question of why prehistoric creatures are found in the deepest trenches also involves the question of how they got there in the first place. The deep sea is not a place that is easily colonized. The pressure, the cold, and the darkness present formidable barriers to entry. To survive in the deep, an organism must have the right biochemistry, the right physiology, and the right life history. Most surface-dwelling creatures cannot simply move to the deep. They would die long before they reached the bottom. The first human beings to witness this alien world directly were two men who descended to the bottom of the Mariana Trench in 1960. Their names were Jacques Picard and Don Walsh, and their vessel was the Trieste, a Swiss-designed, American-owned bathyscaphe that was unlike anything that had ever been built before. The Trieste consisted of a massive float filled with gasoline, which is lighter than water and resists compression, and a small reinforced steel sphere suspended beneath it. Inside that sphere, which was barely large enough for two men to sit, Pickard and Walsh began their descent into the unknown. The descent was slow, taking almost 5 hours. They fell through the last light of the sun into the total frigid darkness. At over 30,000 feet, nearly 10,000 meters down, they heard a sound that no human being had ever heard at such a depth. A single, sharp, and very loud crack. It was not a creak or a groan. It was a clear, structural bang that shuddered through the entire vessel. In that moment, they were the two most isolated human beings on the planet, suspended in total darkness, 7 miles from the sun with no hope of rescue, and they had just heard what sounded like their tiny sphere failing. For a long, tense moment, they watched their instruments, checking for a leak or a change in pressure. Nothing. They eventually discovered the source. It was not the hull. It was an outer plexiglass window on the entry tube, a non-structural piece that had finally surrendered to a force it was never designed to bear. The inner sphere, the one keeping them alive, was holding. They made a decision. They did not ascend. They kept sinking, pushing on past the point of known engineering and into the absolute unknown, until hours later their small craft settled gently onto a fine, pale silt. They had landed. The silence that followed that violent crack was now a different kind of silence, the silence of arrival. Outside their tiny viewport, the cloud of fine silt stirred up by their landing began to settle. They switched on their powerful external lights, cutting the first man-made cone of white into a darkness that had existed for eons. The world they saw was simple. A flat, pale, undisturbed plain of what looked like fine, creamy mud. And then, in that beam of light, something moved. Both men reported it clearly. They saw a creature. It was not a sea cucumber. It was not a shrimp. It was, they insisted, a flatfish, something like a sole or a flounder about a foot long. It had eyes. It looked at their light, and then, disturbed by their arrival, it swam slowly away, disappearing back into the darkness. On the surface, this report was a revolution. It was not just proof of life. It was proof of complex vertebrate life at a depth where scientists had believed such biology was impossible. And yet, in the decades since that first historic dive, that flatfish has become a ghost. No other mission has ever seen another one. No camera has ever captured another image. The scientific consensus today is that Pickard and Walsh were most likely mistaken. The pressure at that depth, we now believe, is simply too great for a fish with bones and a swim bladder to survive. And so the mystery remains. Were they wrong, or did they glimpse a creature that has somehow broken the laws of biology, a phantom that has simply never been seen again? More than 50 years would pass before another human being returned to that specific, deepest spot. In 2012, the film director James Cameron, a man long obsessed with the ocean, decided to complete the journey his predecessors had started, but he wanted to do it alone. His vessel was the Deep Sea Challenger, a sleek, futuristic, 24-foot-long green torpedo engineered to fall, not float. His descent was, in contrast to the Trieste, fast and modern. He fell through the darkness at a rate of 500 feet per minute. But the psychology of the journey was perhaps even more intense than that of the Trieste. Cameron was encased in a steel sphere so small he could not fully extend his arms, his knees tucked to his chest for hours. He was not just leaving the world behind. He was leaving humanity behind. He was becoming literally the most isolated human being on the planet. More isolated even than the astronauts on the space station, who could at least look down and see the world in their window. Cameron looked out his tiny viewport and saw only a crushing, featureless, total black. He described the feeling not as fear, but as a profound, almost philosophical solitude. He felt, he said, a sense of presence, the deep, quiet weight of a place that was not meant for him, a place that was utterly indifferent to his survival. He was a visitor in a realm that did not and could not ever know him. His powerful light scanned the pale, silty floor of the Challenger deep, revealing a barren, almost sterile landscape. He did not see a phantom flatfish. He did not see a new species of giant amphipod. He saw a world that was almost empty of visible life. Later, Surveys conducted by the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology would make an even more disturbing discovery in the same trench. Their cameras and sampling devices, sent to the deepest parts of the ocean, captured images of a plastic bag and other synthetic debris resting on the seafloor. There, 7 miles down, in a place that had resisted humanity for all of time, was the casual, immortal signature of our own carelessness, a simple piece of trash. We had barely managed to send 2 and then 1 human beings to this spot. It had required the absolute limits of our engineering, our bravery, and our wealth. And yet, our garbage had gotten there first, effortlessly. The colonization of the deep sea has also happened gradually over geological time, in a process that is far slower than human exploration, but far more profound in its consequences. As species evolved and diversified, some lineages moved into deeper and deeper water, adapting to the changing conditions as they went. This process of gradual adaptation is called depth stratification, and it has produced the complex vertical structure of the ocean. Different species inhabit different depth zones, and the boundaries between these zones are often sharp. A species that lives at 500 meters may not be able to survive at 1,000 meters, and a species that lives at 1,000 meters may not be able to survive at 5,000 meters. The deepest trenches, the Hadal zone, represent the ultimate frontier of this depth stratification. Only the most highly adapted species can survive here. And many of these species belong to ancient lineages that have been in the deep sea for millions of years. They are not recent arrivals. They are the descendants of the first colonizers of the deep, creatures that made the journey into the abyss long ago and have been there ever since. In recent years, the pace of discovery in the deep trenches has accelerated dramatically. In 2014, a team of scientists from the University of Newcastle and the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology deployed a set of deep-sea landers, autonomous camera systems that sink to the bottom of the ocean and record whatever passes by. They placed these landers in the deepest parts of the Mariana Trench, at depths of over 8,000 meters. What they captured astonished them. They filmed a type of snailfish, a pale, translucent creature with wing-like fins that seemed to dance through the water. This snailfish was unlike any other fish known to science. It had no scales, no swim bladder, and a body that was almost entirely gelatinous. It was perfectly adapted to the immense pressure of the Hadal zone, and it represented a new species, a new genus, and potentially a new family of fish. It was a discovery that was as significant as the coelacanth, and it proved that the deepest parts of the ocean were still hiding creatures that we had never imagined. In 2018, a team of scientists from the University of Western Australia and the Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology captured footage of a fish swimming at a depth of 8,178 meters in the Mariana Trench. This was the deepest confirmed sighting of a fish ever recorded. The creature was a type of Hadal snailfish, a pale, ghostly form that drifted through the darkness like a spirit. It was a reminder that even at the limits of where life can survive, life persists. In 2019, a team of scientists from the University of Hawaii and the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute discovered a new species of deep-sea jellyfish in the Mariana Trench. It was a beautiful, bioluminescent creature with a bell-shaped body and long, trailing tentacles that glowed with an ethereal blue light. It belonged to a group of jellyfish called the Hydromedusae, and it was found at a depth of over 3,700 meters. The same year, a team of scientists from the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology discovered a new species of deep-sea fish in the Japan Trench. It was a type of eelpout, a fish that belongs to a family that is found in cold, deep waters around the world. But this particular eelpout was different. It had a body that was almost entirely translucent, with a pale, gelatinous texture that made it look more like a ghost than a fish. Its bones were visible through its skin, and its internal organs were clearly visible. It was a creature that seemed to belong to another world. These discoveries are happening with increasing frequency. Every month, it seems, there is a new announcement of a prehistoric-looking creature found in the deep trenches, a new species of ancient shark, a new species of living fossil fish, a new species of giant crustacean. The pace of discovery is accelerating, and it raises the question, what else is down there? In 2020, scientists from the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology made a remarkable discovery in the Ryukyu Trench. They found a new species of deep-sea snailfish living at a depth of over 7,000 meters. The fish was pale and gelatinous, with a body that seemed almost liquid in its consistency. It was a creature that had evolved to survive in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, and it was completely unknown to science until that moment. The same year, a team of scientists from the University of Plymouth in the United Kingdom discovered a new species of deep-sea crustacean in the Atacama Trench, off the coast of Chile. The creature was a type of amphipod, a relative of the tiny shrimp-like creatures found in shallow waters, but it had grown to enormous size, reaching lengths of over 8 centimeters. It was a living example of deep-sea gigantism, a phenomenon that scientists are still struggling to understand. In 2021, a team of scientists from the Chinese Academy of Sciences deployed a set of deep-sea landers in the Mariana Trench and captured footage of a new species of hadal snailfish swimming at a depth of over 8,000 meters. The fish was filmed using a baited camera system that attracted a variety of deep-sea scavengers. Among them was a pale, translucent fish with large eyes and a slender body that moved through the water with an almost graceful fluidity. The scientists named the new species the Mariana hadal snailfish, and they described it as one of the deepest living fish ever discovered. The same year, a team of scientists from the University of Western Australia discovered a new species of deep-sea jellyfish in the Java Trench at a depth of over 4,000 meters. The jellyfish was a beautiful bioluminescent creature that glowed with an ethereal blue light as it drifted through the darkness. In 2022, a team of scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute published a study documenting over 30 new species of deep-sea creatures that had been discovered in the depths of the Monterey Canyon, off the coast of California. Among them were new species of comb jellies, sea cucumbers, and deep-sea worms. The study was a reminder that even in relatively well-explored areas of the deep sea, there are still countless species waiting to be discovered. The same year, a team of scientists from the National Oceanography Center in the United Kingdom discovered a new species of deep-sea fish in the trench of the South Sandwich Islands in the Southern Ocean. The fish was a type of snailfish, a pale, gelatinous creature that lived at a depth of over 7,000 meters. It was one of the deepest living fish ever discovered, and it was a reminder that even in the most remote parts of the ocean, there are still creatures that have never been seen by human eyes. In 2023, a team of scientists from the University of Tokyo and the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology made a groundbreaking discovery in the Izu Ogasawara Trench, south of Japan. They captured footage of a fish swimming at a depth of 8,336 meters, breaking the previous record for the deepest living fish ever recorded. The fish was a type of hadal snailfish, a pale, ghostly form that drifted through the darkness in the most extreme environment in which a vertebrate has ever been found to survive. The discovery pushed the known limits of vertebrate life on Earth to new depths, and it raised profound questions about the nature of adaptation and the limits of life in the deep sea. In 2024, the pace of discovery shows no signs of slowing down. New species are being discovered at an astonishing rate, and each new discovery adds to our understanding of the deep sea and its inhabitants. The hadal snailfish, the giant amphipods, the deep-sea jellyfish, the translucent eelpouts, all of these creatures are being added to the growing catalog of deep-sea life. And with each new species, we come closer to understanding the full diversity of life in the deepest parts of our ocean. The future of deep-sea exploration is bright. New technologies are being developed that will allow us to explore even deeper, stay longer, and observe more. The Seabed 2030 project, an international collaboration, aims to map the entire ocean floor at high resolution by the year 2030. This ambitious project is already transforming our understanding of the seafloor, revealing underwater mountains, canyons, and trenches that were previously unknown. Each new survey adds to our knowledge of the deep sea, and each new discovery raises new questions about the life that inhabits these remote environments. New submersibles are being designed that can withstand even greater pressures and operate at even greater depths. New sensors are being developed that can detect the faintest traces of life, from the bioluminescent flashes of deep-sea creatures to the chemical signatures of microbial activity. New autonomous vehicles are being built that can explore the deep sea for months at a time, collecting data and samples without the need for a support ship. The exploration of the deep sea is entering a new era, an era of unprecedented discovery and understanding. Advances in artificial intelligence and machine learning are being used to analyze the vast amounts of data collected by deep-sea sensors and cameras. Advances in robotics are producing more capable and more durable submersibles that can operate at the greatest depths for extended periods. Advances in genetic sequencing are allowing scientists to identify new species from tiny samples of tissue or even from environmental DNA. The deep sea is yielding its secrets, slowly but surely, and the discoveries that await us in the coming years are likely to be even more extraordinary than those we have already made. One of the most tantalizing possibilities is that the deep trenches may contain species that have been thought to be extinct for millions of years. The discovery of the coelacanth in 1938 proved that a species could survive in the deep sea long after it had disappeared from the fossil record. Since then, scientists have wondered what else might be out there. Could the megalodon, the giant prehistoric shark, still be alive in the deepest trenches? Could the plesiosaurs, the long-necked marine reptiles of the age of dinosaurs, have survived in the deep? Could there be creatures down there that we have never even imagined? The scientific consensus on the megalodon is clear. It is extinct. The evidence for its extinction is overwhelming. The megalodon was one of the largest predators ever to have lived on Earth, reaching lengths of over 18 meters and weights of over 50 metric tons. Its teeth were massive, measuring up to 18 centimeters in length, and they are among the most abundant fossils found in marine sediments around the world. But these teeth stop appearing in the fossil record after about 3.5 million years ago. No teeth of the megalodon have ever been found in recent sediments or on the deep sea floor. The megalodon was a warm-water shark that fed on large prey like whales and seals. The deep sea, with its cold temperatures and sparse food supply, would not be a suitable habitat for such a large, active predator. The megalodon needed warm water to maintain its metabolism, and it needed abundant food to fuel its enormous body. Neither of these conditions exists in the deep trenches. But the idea of the megalodon surviving in the deep trenches persists in popular culture, and it is not entirely without scientific basis. There is a phenomenon known as the Lazarus effect, where a species that was thought to be extinct is found alive. The coelacanth is the most famous example. The Manito del Monte, a small marsupial from South America, is another. The Dawn redwood, a tree that was known only from fossils before it was discovered alive in China, is a third. The Lazarus effect shows that extinction is not always easy to prove. A species can disappear from the fossil record and still survive in an isolated habitat. The deep sea is the ultimate isolated habitat. It is vast, dark, and largely unexplored. The possibility that a species like the megalodon could survive in the deep sea cannot be completely ruled out, but the scientific evidence strongly suggests that it is extremely unlikely. But there is a more plausible possibility, one that scientists take more seriously. The deep trenches may contain species that are not prehistoric in the sense of being unchanged survivors, but that are new to science and that look prehistoric because they have evolved in isolation for millions of years. These are not living fossils in the strict sense. They are new species that have evolved to fill the unique ecological niches of the Hadal zone, and they happen to resemble ancient forms because the conditions of the deep favor certain body plans and life strategies. The Hadal zone is an environment that places extreme demands on its inhabitants. In such an environment, evolution tends to favor certain traits: slow metabolisms, gelatinous bodies, large eyes or no eyes at all, bioluminescence, gigantism. These traits have evolved independently in many different lineages, producing creatures that look similar even though they are not closely related. This phenomenon is called convergent evolution, and it is one of the reasons why deep-sea creatures often look prehistoric to our eyes. The same environmental pressures that shaped ancient life in the oceans are at work in the deep trenches today, and they are producing similar forms. One of the most remarkable examples of convergent evolution in the deep sea is the Dumbo octopus. This is a deep-sea octopus that lives at depths of over 3,000 meters. It is named for its ear-like fins, which protrude from the sides of its head and resemble the ears of Disney's Dumbo the elephant. The Dumbo octopus uses these fins to swim through the water, flapping them like wings as it moves through the darkness. It is a small gelatinous creature, rarely exceeding 20 centimeters in length. It feeds on small crustaceans and other invertebrates that it captures with its tentacles. The Dumbo octopus belongs to a group of octopuses called the cirrate octopuses, which have a small internal shell and a pair of fins on their mantle. This group of octopuses is ancient, dating back at least 100 million years, and it is considered a living fossil. The Dumbo octopus is a creature of the deep, perfectly adapted to the cold, dark waters where it lives. Another remarkable deep-sea creature that exemplifies convergent evolution is the vampire squid. Despite its name, the vampire squid is not a squid at all. It is a distinct lineage of cephalopod that is neither squid nor octopus, but occupies its own branch of the cephalopod family tree. The vampire squid, known scientifically as Vampiroteuthis infernalis, which means vampire squid from hell, lives at depths of between 600 and 900 meters in the oxygen minimum zone of the ocean. It has a gelatinous body, large eyes, and a webbed tentacle structure that resembles a cloak. It is covered in bioluminescent photophores that can produce flashing lights to confuse predators. When threatened, it turns itself inside out, covering its body with a cloak of spines. The vampire squid feeds on marine snow, the organic debris that falls from the surface waters. It is a living fossil, a relic of an ancient lineage that has survived for over 100 million years. And it is found in the deep sea, where the conditions have remained stable for eons. Consider the Yeti crab, a creature that was discovered in 2005 near hydrothermal vents in the South Pacific Ocean. The Yeti crab, known scientifically as Kiwa hirsuta, is a blind, pale crustacean that lives at depths of over 2,000 meters. Its body is covered in long, silky blonde setae, which are hair-like structures that give it the appearance of a yeti, the mythical snow monster of the Himalayas. The Yeti crab is a living fossil in its own right, belonging to a family of crustaceans that was thought to have gone extinct millions of years ago. It was discovered living on hydrothermal vents, where it feeds on the bacteria that grow on its hairy claws. Since the discovery of the first Yeti crab, several other species have been found in different parts of the deep ocean, including the Hoff crab, which was discovered on hydrothermal vents in the Southern Ocean near Antarctica. The Hoff crab is named for its hairy chest, which resembles the chest of the actor David Hasselhoff, and it feeds on the bacteria that grow on its setae. The Yeti crabs and the Hoff crabs are a reminder that even in the 21st century, there are still entire families of animals waiting to be discovered in the deep sea. Consider the Pompeii worm, another extremophile that lives on hydrothermal vents. The Pompeii worm, known scientifically as Alvanella pompeiana, is a deep-sea polychaete worm that lives on the sides of black smoker chimneys, where the temperature can reach over 80 degrees Celsius. It is one of the most heat-tolerant animals on Earth. The Pompeii worm builds tubes on the sides of the vent chimneys, and it lives inside these tubes, with its head exposed to the warm water and its tail exposed to the cold water of the deep sea. It feeds on the bacteria that grow on its body, and it has evolved a suite of adaptations that allow it to survive in one of the most extreme environments on the planet. The Pompeii worm is not a living fossil in the traditional sense, but it represents a lineage of animals that has adapted to the extreme conditions of the deep sea in ways that challenge our understanding of the limits of life. The bacteria that live at hydrothermal vents are among the most remarkable organisms on Earth. These are the extremophils, the heat-loving microbes that thrive at temperatures that would destroy most other forms of life. Some of these bacteria, known as hyperthermophils, can grow at temperatures of over 100 degrees Celsius. They are found in the superheated fluids that emerge from hydrothermal vents, where they use the chemical energy of the vent fluids to fix carbon dioxide and produce organic matter. These bacteria are the foundation of the hydrothermal vent ecosystem, providing food for the tube worms, clams, and other creatures that live in these oases of life in the deep sea. The study of these hyperthermophilic bacteria has revealed new insights into the limits of life and the potential for life to exist in extreme environments on other planets. The enzymes produced by these bacteria, known as extremozymes, have practical applications in biotechnology, where they are used in industrial processes that require high temperatures. Consider the faceless cusk eel, a creature that was rediscovered in 2014 after being known only from a single specimen collected in 1873 during the famous Challenger expedition. The faceless cusk eel, known scientifically as Typhlonus nasus, is a deep-sea fish that lives at depths of over 4,000 meters. As its name suggests, it has no visible face. Its eyes are buried beneath its skin, and its mouth is located on the underside of its head. It is a pale, gelatinous creature that looks more like a ghost than a fish. It was first collected by the HMS Challenger expedition in 1873, but no further specimens were found for over 140 years. Then, in 2014, a team of Australian scientists trawling off the coast of Queensland caught 2 specimens, rediscovering a creature that had been lost to science for more than a century. The faceless cusk eel is a living fossil, a survivor from the depths of time that had been hiding in the darkness. Consider the barrel-eye fish, known scientifically as Macropinna microstoma. This is a deep-sea fish that lives at depths of between 600 and 800 meters. Its most remarkable feature is its head, which is completely transparent. Inside this transparent dome, you can see the fish's eyes, which are 2 large green tubular structures that point upward. The barrel-eye fish uses its upward-pointing eyes to detect the silhouettes of prey swimming above it in the dim light of the deep sea. It is a creature that looks like it belongs in a science fiction film, but it is real, and it is one of the most extraordinary examples of deep-sea adaptation. The barrel-eye fish is not a living fossil in the strict sense, but it represents the kind of bizarre, otherworldly creature that evolution produces in the unique environment of the deep sea. Consider the deep-sea anglerfish. This is a creature that looks like it belongs in the age of dinosaurs, but it is actually a relatively modern fish. The anglerfish has a large head, a wide mouth filled with needle-like teeth, and a bioluminescent lure that dangles from its forehead to attract prey. It is a creature of the deep, found at depths of up to 2,000 meters. Its appearance is so strange that it is often described as prehistoric, but it is not a living fossil. It is a modern fish that has evolved to survive in the extreme conditions of the deep sea. The same environmental pressures that led to the evolution of bizarre deep-sea creatures in the past are still operating today, and they are still producing new forms that look like they belong to another era. The anglerfish is not alone. There are hundreds of species of deep-sea fish that look like they came from another world. The viperfish, with its long, needle-like teeth and its bioluminescent photophores, is one. The dragonfish, with its black body and its glowing chin barbel, is another. The gulper eel, with its enormous mouth and its expandable stomach, is a third. All of these fish are products of the deep sea, and all of them look like they belong in a museum of prehistoric life, but they are not fossils. They are living, breathing, evolving creatures that have adapted to one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The deep trenches are not just holes in the ocean floor. They are windows into deep time. They are portals that allow us to see what life was like millions of years ago. They are living museums where the past is still present, where ancient forms of life continue to thrive in the darkness. And as our technology improves and our exploration of the deep sea intensifies, we are likely to find more and more of these prehistoric creatures. The deep trenches have been keeping their secrets for a very long time, but slowly, painfully, expensively, and with great effort, we are beginning to unlock those secrets. The implications of these discoveries go far beyond mere curiosity. They tell us something profound about the nature of life on Earth. Life is not a simple progression from primitive to advanced. It is not a ladder with humans at the top and everything else below. Life is a branching tree, with many different paths and many different strategies for survival. The prehistoric creatures of the deep trenches represent alternative paths, different solutions to the challenges of existence. They are not failures that have been left behind by evolution. They are successes that have found a way to persist, to endure, to survive through the great catastrophes that have shaped the history of our planet. When we look at a frilled shark or a coelacanth, we are not looking at a primitive version of a modern fish. We are looking at a different way of being a fish, a strategy that has been tested and proven over 80 million years. The frilled shark does not need to be fast. It does not need to be smart. It does not need to have the complex sensory systems of a great white shark. It has found a niche in the deep sea where its ancient body plan works perfectly well. It is not primitive. It is not a relic. It is a successful organism that has outlasted the dinosaurs, outlasted the ice ages, and outlasted countless species that were once considered more advanced. This is a humbling realization. We tend to think of evolution as a march of progress, with newer and better forms replacing older and inferior ones. But the deep trenches tell a different story. They tell a story of coexistence, of survival, of ancient forms persisting alongside modern ones. The coelacanth was swimming in the ocean when the first dinosaurs appeared. It was already an ancient lineage when the first mammals evolved. It saw the rise and fall of the great marine reptiles. It witnessed the impact of the asteroid that changed the world. And it is still here, swimming in the same deep waters, living the same life, following the same ancient rhythms. The deep trenches are a reminder that our planet is older, stranger, and more mysterious than we can fully comprehend. We have mapped the surface of Mars more completely than we have mapped the bottom of the Mariana Trench. We know more about the geology of the Moon than we know about the Hadal Zone. The deep sea is the last great frontier on Earth, and it is a frontier that is yielding discoveries that challenge our understanding of life, of time, and of the history of our planet. One of the most important discoveries from the deep trenches is the realization that life can exist in environments that we once thought were completely inhospitable. The Hadal Zone was long considered a biological desert, a place where the pressure was so great, the cold so intense, and the darkness so absolute that nothing could possibly survive. We now know that this is not true. The Hadal Zone is teeming with life. It is full of creatures that have found ways to thrive in conditions that would kill a human in seconds. This discovery has profound implications for our search for life beyond Earth. If life can survive in the Hadal trenches of Earth, at pressures of over 1,000 atmospheres, in complete darkness, at near-freezing temperatures, then perhaps life can survive in the subsurface oceans of Europa or Enceladus. Perhaps life can survive in the methane lakes of Titan. Perhaps life can survive in the deep, dark, cold environments that are common throughout the solar system. The deep trenches are not just a window into Earth's past. They are a window into the potential for life elsewhere in the universe. The creatures of the deep trenches are teaching us that life is more resilient, more adaptable, and more tenacious than we ever imagined. They are teaching us that the boundaries of the biosphere are far wider than we once thought. They are teaching us that life finds a way, even in the most extreme environments. And they are teaching us that the deep sea, far from being a barren wasteland, is one of the most biologically rich and scientifically important environments on the planet. The deep sea is changing. The warming of the ocean, driven by climate change, is affecting even the deepest parts of the ocean. The water in the deep trenches is slowly warming, and this warming could have profound effects on the creatures that live there. Deep-sea creatures are adapted to a very stable temperature environment, and even small changes in temperature could disrupt their physiology and behavior. The acidification of the ocean, caused by the absorption of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, is also affecting the deep sea. As the surface waters become more acidic, this acidity is slowly spreading to the deep ocean, changing the chemistry of the water that deep-sea creatures depend on. The depletion of oxygen in the ocean, known as deoxygenation, is another threat. As the ocean warms, it holds less oxygen, and the oxygen minimum zones of the ocean are expanding. The deep trenches are not immune to these changes. The prehistoric creatures that live in the trenches have survived for millions of years by finding a stable refuge in the deep, but that refuge is now under threat. But there is a note of urgency in these discoveries. The deep trenches are not as isolated from human influence as we once believed. Pollutants have been found in the bodies of creatures living at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Plastic particles have been found in the guts of Hadal amphipods. The chemicals of our industrial civilization have reached the deepest places on Earth. Even the creatures that have survived for millions of years in the darkness of the deep are now being affected by human activity. This is a sobering thought. The prehistoric creatures of the deep trenches have survived asteroid impacts, ice ages, and mass extinctions. They have persisted through the rise and fall of civilizations, through the coming and going of countless species. But they may not be able to survive the impact of human activity on the ocean. The pollution of the deep sea, the warming of the ocean, the acidification of the water, the depletion of oxygen in the deep, the overfishing of the surface waters that supply the food that falls to the deep, all of these factors are putting pressure on the fragile ecosystems of the Hadal Zone. The creatures that have lived in the deep trenches for millions of years may be facing their greatest challenge yet. And we, the species that has only recently discovered their existence, are the cause of that challenge. This is a responsibility that we cannot ignore. If we are to understand the history of life on Earth, If we are to preserve the living fossils that have survived from deep time, we must protect the deep sea environment, we must reduce our pollution, we must limit our exploitation, we must study and understand before we destroy. The deep sea is a place of wonder and mystery. It is a place where the laws of biology and physics operate differently than they do on the surface. It is a place where time moves at a different pace, where evolution follows different rules, where life takes forms that seem alien to us. And yet, for all its strangeness, the deep sea is connected to us. The same ocean that washes against our shores also fills the deepest trenches. The same carbon that we release into the atmosphere eventually finds its way to the Hadal Zone. The same plastic that we discard into the environment eventually settles on the bottom of the Mariana Trench. We are connected to the deep sea whether we know it or not. And the creatures that live there, the prehistoric survivors of deep time, are part of our world. So why are scientists finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches? They are finding them because the deep sea is a museum of evolutionary history, a repository of ancient life forms that have survived through the ages in the stable, dark, cold environment of the abyss. They are finding them because the deep sea is a refuge from the catastrophes that have repeatedly devastated the surface world. They are finding them because the deep sea is a place where evolution moves slowly, where ancient body plans remain viable, where the past is never truly past. And they are finding them because we are finally, after all these centuries, developing the technology to look. We are sending cameras and robots and submarines into the deepest parts of the ocean, and we are seeing what has been there all along. The prehistoric creatures of the deep trenches have been living their lives, following their ancient rhythms for millions of years, completely unknown to us. We are only now beginning to discover them, and every discovery raises new questions. What other ancient creatures are waiting to be found in the unexplored depths of the trenches? What other living fossils are hiding in the darkness, waiting for a human light to illuminate them? What other branches of the tree of life have survived in the deep, preserving forms and strategies that we thought were lost forever? We do not know. The deep trenches are vast, and we have explored only a tiny fraction of them. We have mapped roughly a quarter of the ocean floor at high resolution. We have visited only a handful of the thousands of deep-sea trenches that exist around the world. The Hadal Zone, the deepest part of the ocean, remains almost completely unknown. Every expedition to the deep trenches brings back new discoveries, new species, new insights into the history of life on Earth. The prehistoric creatures of the deep trenches are not just curiosities. They are teachers. They are telling us about the resilience of life, about the power of adaptation, about the long, slow rhythms of evolution that operate on timescales far beyond our individual lives. They are telling us that the Earth is older and stranger than we can imagine, and that the history of life is written not just in rocks and fossils, but in the living bodies of creatures that swim in the darkness. Listen to the silence of the deep. Feel the weight of the water pressing down from above. Imagine the creatures that live in that world, the ancient sharks, the living fossils, the giants of the Hadal Zone. They are down there right now, swimming in the darkness, living their lives as they have for millions of years. They do not know that we exist. They do not know that we have discovered them. They do not know that they are teaching us lessons about the history of life on Earth. And perhaps that is the most profound lesson of all. The deep trenches have been there all along, full of ancient life, full of prehistoric survivors, full of secrets that we are only beginning to unlock. We thought we knew our planet. We thought we had explored it all. We thought there were no more blank spaces on the map. But the deep trenches have proven us wrong. They have shown us that the Earth is still full of mysteries, still full of surprises, still full of creatures that challenge our understanding of what is possible. The deep sea is a place where time moves differently. It is a place where the past is always present, where ancient life forms continue to thrive, where the rules of existence are different from anything we experience on the surface. It is a place of darkness and pressure and cold, but it is also a place of life and resilience and survival. It is a place that reminds us that life on Earth is older, stranger, and more wonderful than we can fully comprehend. And so the question of why scientists are finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches has no single answer. It is a question that opens onto many answers, many explanations, many lines of inquiry. the stability of the deep-sea environment, the role of the trenches as refuges during mass extinctions, the slow pace of evolution in the cold and dark, the unique biochemistry of deep-sea life, the convergent evolution that produces similar forms in similar environments, the ongoing discovery of new species that have never been seen before. All of these factors are part of the answer. But perhaps the simplest answer is also the most profound. Scientists are finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches because those creatures have always been there. They have been there for millions of years, living their lives in the darkness, waiting for us to find them. They are not new arrivals. They are not recent immigrants to the deep. They are the original inhabitants of the abyss, the descendants of the first life forms that colonized the deep sea long before humans ever existed. They are the survivors, the endurance champions of evolution, the living proof that life can persist through the most extreme conditions and the most catastrophic events. And they are still there, in the darkness of the deepest trenches, swimming through the cold, crushing water, living their ancient lives. They do not need our recognition. They do not need our understanding. They simply exist, as they have existed for millions of years, as they will continue to exist long after we are gone. The deep trenches are the keepers of deep time. They hold the secrets of the past within their dark waters. And slowly, with each expedition, with each new discovery, with each new species that is found and named and studied, those secrets are being revealed. The prehistoric creatures of the deepest trenches are speaking to us across the ages. They are telling us the story of life on Earth, a story that is still being written, a story that we are only beginning to read. We are living in a golden age of deep-sea discovery. The technology that allows us to explore the Hadal Zone has advanced more in the past 20 years than in the previous 100. We are finding new species at an astonishing rate. We are mapping the seafloor with unprecedented precision. We are deploying cameras and sensors that can withstand the crushing pressure of the deepest trenches. We are discovering ecosystems that operate on entirely different principles than anything we have seen before. And yet, for all our advances, we have barely scratched the surface. The deep trenches remain largely unexplored. The Hadal Zone remains the least known environment on Earth. There are species down there that we have never imagined, creatures that will challenge our understanding of biology, ecosystems that will expand our conception of what life can be. The prehistoric creatures we have found so far are just the beginning. The frilled shark, the goblin shark, the coelacanth, the nautilus, the Greenland shark, the giant amphipods, the colossal squid. These are the pioneers, the first ambassadors from the Hadal Zone to the surface world. They have told us that the deep sea is full of ancient life. They have shown us that the past is never truly past. They have taught us that the Earth still holds mysteries that we have not yet begun to solve. And as we continue to explore, as we send our cameras and our robots and our submarines deeper and deeper into the darkness, we will find more. We will find new species of prehistoric sharks. We will find new species of living fossil fish. We will find creatures that resemble the fossils of the ancient seas, preserved in the cold, dark waters of the trenches. We will find life forms that have been evolving in isolation for millions of years, independent of the surface world, following their own evolutionary path. The deep trenches are the last great frontier on Earth. They are the place where the past meets the present, where ancient life forms swim alongside modern ones, where time moves at a different pace. They are a reminder that our planet is not fully known, that the map is not complete, that there are still blank spaces waiting to be filled. The question of why scientists are finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches is really a question about the nature of life itself. It is a question about survival, about adaptation, about the long arc of evolutionary time. It is a question about the resilience of life, its ability to persist through the great catastrophes that have shaped our planet. It is a question about the deep sea, the last unknown realm on Earth, and the secrets it holds. And the answer, as far as we can understand it, is this. The deep trenches are a refuge, a sanctuary, a museum of deep time. They preserve ancient life forms because they provide the conditions that ancient life forms need. The darkness, the cold, the pressure, the stability, the reduced competition, the slow pace of life, all of these factors combine to create an environment where prehistoric creatures can survive and thrive, long after their shallow water relatives have gone extinct. The deep trenches are a world apart, a different dimension of existence on our own planet. They are a place where the rules are different, where time is measured in millions of years, where the pace of life is slow and steady, and they are a place that we are only beginning to understand. So let us continue to explore. Let us continue to send our cameras and our robots and our submarines into the darkness. Let us continue to discover the prehistoric creatures that inhabit the deepest trenches of our ocean. Let us continue to learn from them, to be humbled by them, to be inspired by them. For the deep trenches have much to teach us. They teach us about the history of life on Earth. They teach us about the resilience of living things. They teach us about the power of adaptation and the long, slow processes of evolution. And they teach us that our planet is more mysterious, more beautiful, and more full of wonder than we ever imagined. The deepest trenches of the ocean are the last great wilderness on Earth. They are the place where the ancient world still exists, preserved in the darkness and the cold. They are the home of prehistoric creatures, living fossils, survivors from deep time, and they are waiting for us, in the silence and the pressure and the dark, to come and discover their secrets. So we will continue to ask the question, why are scientists finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches? And we will continue to find answers, partial and provisional, as we explore deeper and discover more. The answer is not a single fact or a single theory. It is a story of life on Earth, a story of survival and adaptation and persistence, a story that is still unfolding in the darkness of the deep, and that story is not yet finished. New species are being discovered even now as you listen to these words. Somewhere in the darkness of a deep trench, a creature that has never been seen by human eyes is swimming through the cold, crushing water. It is a prehistoric survivor, a living fossil, a messenger from the deep past. And one day, perhaps soon, a camera will capture its image, a robot will collect its body, and a scientist will name it and describe it and add it to the growing catalog of life on Earth. This is the ongoing work of deep-sea exploration. This is the reason why scientists are finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches. Because they are looking. Because they are exploring. Because they are determined to understand the last unknown realm on our planet. And because the deep trenches, for all their darkness and pressure and cold, are full of life, ancient life, life that has persisted through the ages, waiting to be found. The deep is patient. The deep is slow. The deep has been there for billions of years, and it will be there for billions more. The creatures that live in the deepest trenches have learned the lesson of patience. They have learned to wait, to conserve, to endure. They have learned that survival is not about speed or strength or intelligence. It is about persistence. It is about finding a niche and holding on to it. It is about adapting to the conditions that exist, rather than trying to change them. And so, they wait, in the darkness. The frilled shark waits. The goblin shark waits. The coelacanth waits. The nautilus waits. The Greenland shark waits, swimming slowly through the cold, dark water, century after century. They are the patient ones, the survivors, the holders of deep time. And they are teaching us, in their silent, ancient way, about the nature of life and the meaning of endurance. The deep trenches are not just places of darkness and pressure. They are places of life. They are places where the ancient world survives, preserved in the cold and the dark like insects in amber. They are places where the past is still present, where the history of life on Earth is written not in fossils but in living flesh. And they are places that remind us every time we explore them that our planet is still full of wonder, still full of mystery, still full of surprises. The prehistoric creatures of the deepest trenches are a gift. They are a window into deep time. They are a reminder of the resilience of life. They are a challenge to our understanding of evolution and extinction. And they are an invitation to explore, to discover, to be amazed by the world that exists beneath the surface of the sea. So let us accept that invitation. Let us dive into the darkness. Let us descend into the pressure and the cold. Let us seek out the prehistoric creatures that inhabit the deepest trenches of our ocean. And let us learn from them, as they have so much to teach us. The deep trenches are calling, and in their silence, in their darkness, in their ancient patience, They hold the answers to questions we have not yet thought to ask. The prehistoric creatures they contain are the messengers of deep time, the survivors of ages past, the living proof that life endures. And they are waiting for us in the deepest, darkest, most remote places on Earth to come and discover them. Every descent into the trenches is a journey into the past. Every discovery is a message from deep time. Every living fossil is a reminder that the history of life on Earth is still being written and that we are only beginning to read its pages. This is why scientists are finding prehistoric creatures in the deepest trenches, because they have always been there, because the deep sea is a museum of evolutionary history, because the trenches are refuges from the catastrophes that have reshaped the surface world, because the conditions of the deep favor ancient life forms, because we are finally developing the technology to look, and because, at the deepest level, we are driven by the same curiosity that has always driven human exploration. We want to know what is out there. We want to understand the world we live in. We want to find the creatures that have been hiding in the darkness, waiting for us to discover them. The deep trenches hold the secrets of deep time. And slowly, patiently, one discovery at a time, we are beginning to unlock those secrets. The prehistoric creatures we have found so far are just the beginning. There are more out there in the darkness, in the pressure, in the cold. More living fossils, more ancient survivors, more messengers from the deep past, and they are waiting for us. The deep is patient. The deep is dark. The deep is cold. And the deep is full of life, ancient life, prehistoric life, life that has persisted through the great extinctions, through the ice ages, through the rise and fall of countless species, life that has found a way to survive in the most extreme environment on Earth, life that is still there, in the deepest trenches, swimming through the darkness, living its ancient life. We are only beginning to understand this world. We are only beginning to appreciate the creatures that inhabit it. We are only beginning to grasp the lessons they have to teach us about survival, about adaptation, about the long, slow rhythms of evolution. The deep trenches have been there for billions of years, and they will be there for billions more. The creatures that live in them have learned the lesson of patience. They have learned to wait, to conserve, to endure. They have learned that survival is not about speed or strength or intelligence. It is about persistence. It is about finding a niche and holding on to it. It is about adapting to the conditions that exist rather than trying to change them. In the deep trenches, life operates on a different scale of time. A century is like a day. A millennium is like a year. The creatures of the deep have learned to measure their lives in geological time, not in human time. They are patient because they have to be. They are enduring because they have no choice. And they are successful because they have found a way to survive in a world that would kill almost anything else. The dark water is still. The pressure is immense. The cold is absolute. And somewhere below, in the deepest trench, a creature that has lived for millions of years continues its slow, ancient journey through the abyss. It does not know that we exist. It does not care. It simply is, as it has always been, a living fossil, a survivor, a messenger from the deep past. It swims through the darkness, following instincts that are older than the human species, older than the mammals, older than the dinosaurs. It is a living link to a time before the continents had broken apart, before the mountains had risen, before the ice had covered the poles. The deep trenches hold the history of life on Earth within their dark waters. And slowly, one discovery at a time, that history is being revealed. The deep sea is patient. The deep sea is ancient. The deep sea is full of secrets. And slowly, one discovery at a time, those secrets are being revealed. The prehistoric creatures of the deepest trenches are speaking to us across the ages, and we are finally learning to listen. They are telling us that life is older, stranger, and more resilient than we ever imagined. They are telling us that the past is never truly past. They are telling us that the deep sea, the last unknown realm on our planet, holds the keys to understanding the history of life on Earth. And they are telling us that there is still so much more to discover, so much more to learn, so much more to understand about the world beneath the waves. The prehistoric creatures of the deepest trenches are survivors. They have endured through the great extinctions, through the ice ages, through the rise and fall of countless species. They have found a way to persist in the most extreme environment on Earth. They are the holders of deep time, the keepers of ancient secrets, the living proof that life endures. And they are waiting for us, in the darkness and the pressure and the cold, to come and discover them. But they are also vulnerable. The deep sea is changing, and these ancient survivors may not be able to adapt to the rapid pace of change that human activity is causing. The warming of the ocean, the acidification of the water, the depletion of oxygen, the pollution of the deep with plastics and chemicals, all of these threats are reaching even the deepest trenches. The creatures that have survived for millions of years are facing a challenge unlike any they have encountered before. And it is up to us, the species that has only recently discovered them, to ensure that they continue to survive. The deep trenches have been keeping their secrets for billions of years. Let us hope that they will continue to keep them for billions more, and that the prehistoric creatures that inhabit them will continue to swim through the darkness, living their ancient lives for generations yet to come. So let us keep exploring. Let us keep discovering. Let us keep learning from the prehistoric creatures that inhabit the deepest trenches of our ocean, for they have much to teach us about the history of life, the resilience of living things, and the enduring mystery of the deep. There is a quiet beauty in the darkness of the deep sea. It is a beauty that is not visible to our eyes, but that can be felt in the mind. It is the beauty of a world that has existed for millions of years without us, a world that follows its own rhythms and obeys its own laws. It is the beauty of creatures that have never seen the sun, that have never known warmth, that have lived their entire lives in the cold, crushing darkness. And it is the beauty of a mystery that we are only beginning to unravel, a mystery that will continue to unfold with each new expedition, each new discovery, each new glimpse into the ancient world beneath the waves. The deep trenches are the keepers of deep time. They hold the history of life on Earth within their dark waters. And slowly, patiently, one discovery at a time, that history is being revealed.